Growth that shows no sign of slowing down. Charlotte, one of the fastest growing cities in America, and this graph right here shows the number of people moving here daily over the years. From 2021 to 2022, see it right there at the very end, 113 people moved to the Charlotte area every single day. 10 years prior, that number was 43. We know there's so much to love about our city, right? The Queen City is home to Fortune 500 companies such as Bank of America, Honeywell, and Duke Energy. But our city also maintains its southern charm and hospitality. By far, Charlotte is the largest city in North Carolina, but it wasn't always that way. A city along the coast was once the most developed in the state, until one significant moment 125 years ago this month. It changed the course of history in our state. And it's tonight's cover story. With Charlotte and Raleigh both sprawling today, it's hard to imagine Wilmington was once the largest city in North Carolina and the most successful. Following the Civil War, poor white laborers and African Americans formed a political bond, both seeking to create a better future following the collapse of Dixie. Wilmington grew into a haven for African Americans who not only helped rebuild the struggling port city, but became prominent newspaper editors, business owners, and politicians. More than half of the city was African American, and their rise to power brewed resentment among white elites still reeling in the Reconstruction South. As the years went on and African Americans became more entrenched in power and prestige, white leaders feared what was happening in Wilmington would spawn to other cities throughout North Carolina. In their eyes, something had to be done, and a growing wave of anti-African American propaganda, intimidation, and violence carried into Election Day, November 8, 1898. Fearing harm to person and property, many African Americans shied away from the ballot box, and coupled with widespread election fraud, led to sweeping victories for the Democratic Party, a party unlike the one we know today. However, white supremacists still had not gained full control over Wilmington's politics, and on November 10th, they would take to the streets to burn down black-owned businesses, remove black politicians from power, and murder countless others. The massacre and coup d'etat of 1898 was forever cemented in history. And what white leaders had hoped would change Wilmington for the better had the opposite effect. Nearly overnight, the city's strong African American population had either been stripped of power, run out of town, or killed in cold blood. The events of that day would take Wilmington from the top of North Carolina's commerce to a city that would languish in irrelevancy for the next century.
It makes sense that this is such a huge event in our state's history. It's not just important locally, it's important statewide, even national significance as the only successful coup d'etat in the history of our nation.
The massacre also helped form a blueprint for white supremacists throughout the South to regain control. It sparked Jim Crow laws aimed at keeping blacks from voting, and even the first segregation laws meant to break the bond between African Americans and their poor white allies. Now, 125 years later, the real impact haunts the families of those who were forever changed on November 10th, 1898.
It's difficult to wrap your head around the fact that, yes, things that happened over 100 years ago affect us today, right now. My family, other families lost a lot of property and generational wealth just because of this event. And so there is a growing effort to try to see some of that return to those families.
Yeah, turning a source of pain into a seed of hope as Wilmington continues to move forward. The city is hosting several events this month to commemorate the bloody attack of 1898, 125 years ago.